Next, we have
Wait a minute.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
yes,
Oh, is it my turn? It's
yes.
Dr. Charles. Okay, I'm so sorry. There was a delay there. Hi, my name is Dr. Neelan Charles, and I'm also a board certified OBGYN. And I practice general OBGYN in New York, in Westchester County, New York, at New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital. And I have been in practice now, well, I graduated residency in 2005, so that was 15 years now.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Montes.
Hi, everyone. How are y'all doing? Hope you're having a great day today. My name is Erica Montes. I went to med school at the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio, and I finished my OBGYN residency at Parkland Hospital in Dallas, Texas in 2012. So I've been in private practice now for 8 years. I do practice in Phoenix, Arizona, and I am a generalist.
Thank you. Last but not the least, we'll have Dr. Phillips.
Hi, everyone. Hear me. My name is Camila Phillips. I am also a board certified OBGYN. I'm in New York City, so close to Dr. Charles, and I have interest also in lactation and menopause medicine, but I am a general OB. Am I delayed? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, that's it for my intro. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Okay, is it super delayed or is it me? I can't really
It
tell.
was kind of delayed, lady.
It's me?
It was a little bit delayed, but now it's better.
Okay. No one else is on my Wi-Fi right now, so just let me know if it doesn't work out.
Awesome. Before we begin, I would like to thank our doctors for being here. I really appreciate it. Let's get started. So our first question is, what is an OBGYN specialty? And any of you can answer this question.
Okay, I'll go first. An OBGYN specialty basically means obstetrics and gynecology. So we take care of women. We don't take care of guys. That's very easy. So we pretty much do women's health. And so we take care of actually with my practice, depending on some people are much more specialized and do only adolescent, gynecology or anything like that. But at least for most OBGYNs, we usually take care of women from, in their teen years all the way to 90 plus years old or anything like that. And then the best part about being an OBGYN is I guess we also get to deliver babies as well too. So we're the only specialty where you can actually take care of two people at the same time. And it's very special.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Thank you so much for your response.
Mm-hmm.
Our next question is, what is the process of becoming an OBGYN?
So I can talk about that. So basically, you have to do your prerequisites during college in order to be able to apply to med school. And of course, you have to take the MCAT. Basically, once you take the MCAT and you apply to med school, it's a little bit easier in Texas because we have a matching process where you get interviews at different programs or different med schools, and then you kind of rank the med school and they rank you, and a computer kind of puts everyone together. But you do have to complete 4 years of medical school, and then during your, I guess it's your 4th year of med school, then you start applying to residency programs. That residency program is usually 4 years as well. And then you can do a subspecialty depending on your interests after that.
Great, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Dr. Montes, tell me about this Texas thing. So is it just statewide? Like you're like, oh, incidentally, whoop, whoop, thank you for representing the Southwest. Yes, I'm not from El Paso, but I live here now. Yes.
I actually was born in El Paso, lady, so I hope you guys are doing
All
okay
world.
there. I have
Oh,
family out there, so.
that's a whole nother ball game.
I know, lady, I know. So yeah, it's basically just a match process, kind of like our residency match, but because Texas has, I guess it might be 6 or 7 med schools, they kind of try to make it a little bit easier for the candidates. And so you put in your application to the Texas med school program, and then each school will kind of evaluate you. They'll decide if they want to interview you or not. And then it's kind of simple because it's just kind of like a computer program based on their rank list and your rank list. It kind of matches you up. So it's easy and it's cheaper too, which is nice.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Our next question is, what are subspecialties within OBGYN?
I'll do that one.
Uh,
So, as Dr. Charles mentioned a hot minute ago, so you do a 4-year residency, and then you can either do minimally invasive surgery, you can do reproductive endocrinology and infertility, you can do gynecologic oncology, or you can do maternal fetal medicine. Am I missing anybody? Oh, and adult, and you can do adolescent gyne as well. All of those are options.
And urogynecology.
Yes, I'm sorry. I kind of slapped into the minimally invasive, but yes, I apologize. You can also do urogyne. You can become a master or a mistress of the pelvis and do urogynecology.
Exactly.
Also, I think family planning, because I think there are some people I don't who can actually do family planning as well too.
I don't know, doctor. Did you say you said GynOnc, right?
I did, but you're absolutely right. I'm not sure the number of places that you can go to do the family planning, but I know, yes, my colleague from obstetrics and gynecology from medical school actually did that family planning and works for Planned Parenthood now.
Thank you. The next question is, what does your typical day look like prior to the pandemic? And all of you can answer this question.
My typical day, my hours are normally from 8 to 4. That's the time that I normally see patients, and I see patients normally about 3 to 4 days a week. And then I do one 24-hour call day in the hospital where I deliver babies or do surgeries, and then I usually get my post-call day off. So sometimes I'll be on call Monday or Friday, or in the middle of the week. It really depends. So even though technically I'm scheduled to see patients from 8 to 4, I normally don't leave the office until about 5:30 or 6 p.m. because that's the time that I normally look at results, call patients with results, finish my notes, because I try not to take work home with me because I have small kids. And also I work through lunch too, even though technically there's an hour break in between. I usually eat lunch at my desk and try to get as much work done during that time frame so I can, leave the office at a decent hour.
You're up next, Dr. Montes.
Okay, it's me. So yeah, mine's pretty similar. I see patients from about 8 to 4:30. Lunch is variable depending on how much I was able to get done as far as charting and inbox and calling patients the day before. Usually we would have, I know the next question is going to be after the pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, we did do call and just kind of leave as we needed to from our office. Now we actually are on call at the hospital, and then we are off on our post-call day, so that's nice. My group, there's 6 of us in our call group, but that comprises of 3 practices. So you can kind of have your group plus other groups to join you in order to have a bigger call pool. So you're on call less often, but you can be a lot busier because you're covering, you know, a certain number of doctors. But, you know, I think having one day off a week, or depending on when you're on call, post call, definitely helps with decreasing your burnout. And so that's something that you should consider when you're looking at your schedule for the future.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
concur. So I'm the oddball out. I don't go into the office anymore like my colleagues do. I used to. I have been in both hospital employed and in private practice, and had hours similar to what my colleagues reported. At the time that I was in private practice, I had a 1 in 5 call and 1 in 5 weekends as a general. The only difference is in my practice, we had what was called the right of first refusal. And so if you had any of your patients that showed up that came in on a day when you weren't on call, they'd call you first in order to tell you that your patient was there and your patient was laboring, and give you the opportunity to take care of them. When you have issues with boundaries, your call becomes more than 1 in every 5th and every 5th weekend. It becomes a whole lot more than that. And so as a hospitalist, I work 9 24-hour shifts in a 28-day period. So I'll go in, like tomorrow, I go back to work. I go to work tomorrow at 7. I'll be there from 7 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock on Monday, and then I come home.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been doing it?
I have been a hospice for the last 2.5 years. Actually, wait, no, longer than that. I started part-time in 2017, but I became full-time in 2018, like August 2018. And from the standpoint of burnout and work-life balance, I burned out twice. Once in, again, which is coming later, but knowing your boundaries and having balance is crucial. And particularly when you have families. I have 3 children. My eldest is 20, my middle is 14, my youngest is 11, but they just kind of happened along the course. And if you don't have boundaries in place as an OBGYN, you will help other people establish their families while sacrificing your own. And so being a hospice allows me to be able to be present for my children and for my spouse, because they didn't sign up for me being a photo like, oh, look, there's a picture of mommy. That's what she looks like. You go to the mantle every now and then, you can see her. So.
Yeah, that's true.
I dropped off, so I missed the question. Are we still on typical day before the pandemic?
Yes.
You guys can't hear me at all, can you?
Now it's better, honey. Now it's
that's
better.
better.
You can't hear me at all.
No, we can.
Okay. So that's better. I don't know what's going on. I deeply apologize. You know, it's always something with these things, but I was in a group practice. I was one in 7, really. It's a great life. And we did sort of a combined hospitalist model and private practice. So I have one day that I cover the hospital as a hospital. I leave at 5 p.m. the next day, which for me is great because I have also small kids, so they know when I'm going to be away. They know when I'm definitely coming back. And my private practice actually just dismantled, and I'm in solo private practice right now by myself, and it's working out well. I still manage to have a good amount of work-life balance because it's a new practice and it's growing, and patients respect the fact that I am a single person with 2 kids, or 3 kids rather, and it's working out for me. So I enjoy it right now.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Our next question is kind of related to the question. How has the pandemic changed your typical day at work?
Yeah. The pandemic it's stressful. I think that women are bringing in the stress of losing their jobs or having their jobs be unstable, dealing with the stress of having their children at home and trying to balance work and life. food insecurity, money insecurity filtering into OB care, it's been a little bit more challenging to get people to come in for their visits, because one thing about OBGYN is regardless of what's going on in the world, people still have crazy periods that need to be dealt with that could be potentially life-threatening. Babies are still coming regardless of how much virus is in our jobs. And so I think the pandemic has made it a little bit more challenging, at least for me living in New York, when we were the epicenter of the country, because people were at home dealing with major medical issues that really did require them to come into the hospital. So navigating that stress, along with the social stressors that our female patients were experiencing, was for me very.
Yeah, I agree with what Dr. Phillips says and what she just said. And, you know, it has changed for me as far as my schedule and the way we practice medicine, because I do a lot more telemedicine now, which initially I didn't really like, but I've kind of come to terms with it and I've gotten used to it. And then we also are off or just kind of on call on the day of our call day, because we wanted to try to minimize having to go back and forth from the hospital and to back to the office in case we happen to be with a COVID patient that particular day. So that actually has been nice. It actually kind of makes our schedule a little nicer than it was before the pandemic. But, you know, ladies are still having babies, women still need birth control, people still have issues with periods, like Dr. Phillips said. So we're just kind of hanging in there, but we're working it out, and it seems like it's going okay.
I have a tendency to care for a lot of folks who don't have access, either because going to find a physician was deemed too much, because clearly it's odd here. Lots of people have access to Medicaid, but for some reason they don't follow through with going to go find a physician. And so you'll get the thing that I've encountered during the pandemic is, oh, well, I was going to go, but then when I showed up later at the last minute, nobody would see me, and I can't get anybody to see me because of the pandemic. So people are falling off and are not having access to care, so that when I see them, it's like I'm running a clinic, like, okay, boo, well, you done missed all this stuff, so let's go ahead and do all your prenatal care in this time frame we've got. And so as my colleagues have mentioned, some folks are not following through and getting the care that they need because of COVID. They're scared to come out. They're scared to establish care. They're scared to go be seen at their doctor's office. But that's the only thing that's changed, outside of, because I practice like an ER physician, I have seen, and El Paso is going through changes, more and more and more pregnant ladies with COVID. Yeah. Symptomatic, a lot more symptomatic than asymptomatic, unfortunately.
Wow.
Like, I'm in the unit for 17 days post a C-section at 32 weeks, unable to be extubated for 17 days.
Wow, lady.
So.
Sorry, I got kicked off too.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
My kids are using your Wi-Fi, and I'm trying to get them off. Okay, sorry, everybody.
No worries. Let's move on to the next question, which is, how is an OBGYN's lifestyle different from others?
Can you sum that up in one word? Sleep deprivation, more so than anybody else? Because little humans come between the hours of like 1 and 5 as a general rule. Sleep deprivation.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's what you make of it. You know, like if you have to make your schedule fit for you. You have to make medicine work for you. Initially, when you start out as a generalist, yeah, I mean, you just are kind of testing the waters, you know, trying to see like what's going to work for me, what's going to work for my family. I think, you know, I'm 8 years into private practice. Now I think around the 4th or 5th year, you kind of have an idea as to what's going to work for you. And also depending on when you have kids and things. So, you know, you can just do gynecology, which I'm considering that in the next couple years. You can just, you know, you can basically only deliver babies in a bigger call group or be a hospitalist like Dr. Rick's Ford. So I think it just depends on what you make out of it and what you want out of it. But I don't think I think that's different for everyone. I think we all kind of figure it out after a certain time period.
Yeah. I think one thing about OBGYN that I'm kind of coming to appreciate more is actually the diversity of lifestyle. One, because there's so many subspecialties, that's its own diversity. And then two, within the subspecialties, you can really choose to be more heavy surgery or more heavy office, which can change your life a lot. And I know some people who do very well just doing like menopause. And so that's sort of like a medicine-based practice, and they don't have to worry about surgeries and post-op care and actually have like a really great life. And I think that's a little bit different than other specialties where, like, if you're one thing, you're really doing that one thing all the time. OBGYN allows you to pivot within the span of your career many different ways. So that's one positive thing.
And it's the one subspecialty that does continuity
Yeah,
care.
I just turned off my camera to see if that helps my audio.
Yeah, it seems like it is helping.
Okay.
Awesome. Let's see. Okay, our next question is, what personalities do well within this specialty?
I feel like someone who doesn't get frazzled.
Somebody who can handle pressure.
Yes, and who can think quickly on the feet.
Definitively. If you were slow on the uptake, this is not for you at all, because people die while you're slow on the uptake.
I mean, things can go from 0 to 180 degrees pretty fast. I mean, you know, you have you have somebody in labor, they're, and they're doing great, no issues, no problems with the tracing of the baby, and then all of a sudden, there's a major emergency where you have to do a cesarean section in order to really save the baby's life as well as the mom's life, and I've had that happen many times in my career, and you have to be able to, handle it. And I've worked with other physicians when we were residents. They couldn't handle it, and they kind of know this from the beginning, and then they try to choose another specialty that was less, that gave them less of an adrenaline rush, I would say. But it's also great too. Most of the time, everything will go well. There won't be any issues. But when there is an emergency, you have to be able to handle it. You have to be able to handle it.
I agree. In my residency, they called it, or actually in medical school, Howard University College of Medicine is where I went to medical school. They called it equanimity under duress. That when the whole world is falling apart around you, that you're still cool. That people looking to you as the leader, that you still got it together when everybody else then lost it and pooped and hit the fan.
Right, exactly. Definitely. I just had again 3 weeks ago, I did a cesarean section with a patient who had, some complications, and she ended up having a lot of bleeding. And, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh crap. But on the outside, everybody's like, oh, Dr. Charles, you were so cool. And I was like, yeah, I was cool because I have to be able to handle it. And also when you are the person who is, the physician who is in charge, I find that you have to be able to handle the room. If you're not handling the room, the anesthesiologist will not be able to handle it, the nurses, your assistant, etc. So no matter what happens, you have to keep calm and be able to give orders on exactly what you need and be able to handle the situation.
Right.
Thank you. That was very informative. The next question is, what drew you into medicine and OBGYN specifically?
Okay, well, I'm gonna talk. So I'm a big fat science geek, have always been a big fat science geek. Tried actually before I went to medical school, I was a researcher for 4 years, tried to avoid going to medical school, thought I could get my science in that way, and it did not work at all. I ended up having to come into my lab at night to do my experiments because people were stopping by during the day and having conversations. So your productivity was suspect? Yes. I specifically was drawn to obstetrics and gynecology because I enjoy being able to care for patients throughout their lifetime and to be able to see what their children are doing and take care of a woman throughout the course of her reproductive life and beyond. It's the continuity. I'm nosy. I want to know what's going on with your family, what's going on with your children, what they're doing in school. Specifically, I was drawn to obstetrics because unfortunately, my push to go into medicine was secondary to the loss of my mom. She died at 42 years old from a misdiagnosis at an ER that landed her dead by the next morning with acute respiratory distress syndrome. And so specifically, because she was bacteremic, I practice obstetrics and gynecology because it is my thought process that while I'm practicing, that nobody's mother, auntie, sister, cousin will die for some stupid reason. That my job is to make it so that I don't know, that from the standpoint of me knowing what it is I know about medicine, that I help you take better care of you as a person, as a patient, and kind of keep people safe is why I practice specifically obstetrics and gynecology. And like I think it was Dr. Charles said in the very beginning, we don't take care of men. I'm only responsible for one penis at my house. In family practice, you see all kinds of stuff. I ain't trying to see that. I got 2 sons. I saw them. Like, hey, I don't need to worry about that. I don't ever want to see another penis that I'm responsible for servicing in my life ever again. So obstetrics it is.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, I actually went to the University of Texas at Austin for undergrad, and I actually went in as pre-nursing for my major because I didn't know anyone in medicine. I didn't know if Erica Montes from Dallas, Texas could be a physician or a doctor. When you're young, you always think, oh, it sounds cool to be a doctor. Like, I think I want to do it. I think, that seems you're going to help people. And that's kind of like the cliche, I think, that we all consider it to be. But I ended up switching my major after my first semester because I knew that nursing just didn't seem right for me. And I felt like the classes weren't really what I was looking for in a college education. But OBGYN specifically, I think what interests me is that after I did switch my major to medicine, my mom used to work at a hospital as the volunteer coordinator, and she knew one of the physicians there who happened to be just randomly an OBGYN. And so I ended up going around with him and kind of shadowing him and seeing, what he did and this, and kind of getting a better feel for it. And once I started going with him, like during holidays and on breaks, I just ended up loving it. And I chose it once I did my 3rd-year rotations.
For me, again, it's the cliche. I wanted to do medicine. I was fascinated by it. I wanted to help people. I remember when I'm an immigrant. Obviously, you guys can hear from my accent. I was born in Haiti. I came here when I was 13. So even when I was in Haiti, I would, be interested in EMS books because they had pictures of of people putting splints onto a broken leg or something like that. So for me, medicine was always what I wanted to do. And unfortunately, I didn't have a backup career. Because sometimes people will say, if you will go back, would you do it again? And then some people will say, I'll become a chef or whatever. I still don't. I love what I do. And I think my parents told me I wanted to become a pediatrician. I don't remember that. But I think I got interested in just delivering babies. To me, it's the greatest feeling to be able to be part of somebody's life, when they're welcoming a baby into their family, and to know that I had a part of it, that I was a part of it, and to make the experience really wonderful. That's what I love to do. And again, I wish I could, have babies be delivered between Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. So that part of it sucks. But that's basically the reason why I'm doing it, just to deliver babies. And I love also to doing GYN. I didn't think I would love surgery, but I find that I'm good at it. And I also like the fact that I can do both, you know, medicine, taking care of women, delivering babies, as well as doing surgery as well too.
Thank you so much. Our next question is, what are misconceptions about OBGYN?
That we just deliver babies.
Which we
Yep,
know.
or that you
Yeah.
can't have a family and a career at
True.
the same time. But I feel like, Dr. Charles, do you have children too?
Yes, I do. I have 7-year-old twins.
Oh,
boys.
okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have 3
Mhm.
boys, 6, 4, and 2. So my babies are a lot younger. But I feel like a lot of messages that I get from students or from women who are considering OBGYN, they just are like, I don't even know if I want to, I love it. It sounds awesome. I feel like I would, that would be my passion, but I'm scared to do it because I don't know if I can have that balance or that integration between life and work. And, nowadays, most women are OBGYNs. I think it depends on what your husband does as well. My husband's a physician. He's an interventional pain specialist. So he has pretty much like office hours, a nice lifestyle. But I think it also depends on who you have to help you, or like who's your tribe. Because if you don't have that help or that family support, then yeah, I mean, it can be hard. But if you do have that and you're able to make it work, it'll be fine.
That's a good one. And I had 2 out of 3 of my children in residency. It's the one time they can't kick you out for being pregnant. You just extend your time. So, not my advisor. Severe preeclamptic twice. Maybe not so much a good idea, but still.
Oh my God, lady.
My husband, to echo what Dr. Montes has said, my husband was employed outside of the house before we had our last child. When we had our last child, we moved to a really small community that had like 13,000 people in it. And you couldn't go to daycare unless you were at least 18 months old. And you couldn't go to regular school at 4 unless you were special needs, which is not like Baltimore. When we lived in Baltimore, everybody went to school. You went to all-day school, you went at 4 years old, there you go. And so it forced us, particularly because, as one of my colleagues alluded to in the very beginning, when you first get out of residency, you have no idea about balance. You just kind of running and gunning and doing everything and don't know where to put boundaries and stops in place. And it takes you a little bit to learn how to become an attending. And the reality is, when I first got out of residency, my youngest was 1 when we moved, and they never saw me. We didn't have a tribe. It was me and my spouse and my children. And literally, if that brother didn't stay home and take care of my kids, Child Protective Services would have been at my house. Because where we live, if they got off the bus, toot toot, and you weren't there, they was calling somebody. We had the house, the bus is there, nobody is here. And so it depends. I think that it's clearly doable, but you have got to have a support system in order to be able to work it out. In my family, I'm the primary breadwinner. My husband keeps my kids fed. He even clothes. He makes sure, and now with the pandemic, he makes sure people do school at home and gets their homework done. And it works for us. Awesome. It works really well for us.
I would just say, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I changed locations entirely.
Yeah, you're back.
Hopefully this works. I would just say, though, I think to what you guys are saying, I think that's a challenge for women in medicine, in any sort of surgical field in general, in life, honestly. Like, you have to have a tribe of people who are supporting you, through medical school, through residency, because your reproduction, as Dr. Rick Scores alludes to, continues throughout all those times. Those are great reproductive years. And so you have to have a tribe of people around you wherever you are. And so I don't know, I guess I encourage people to do what you feel is right for you. And the universe in general tends to work things out, but use your words and use your voice. Like, I need help. You need to do this. I think we all have the tendency, especially with people who go into OBGYN, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but we're very high functioning because we have to learn how to multitask, pivot, keep it moving, all those things.
Exactly.
So we have a hard time saying like, take some of this off of me, I need help. So anyone who's considering, especially women, a surgical subspecialty, you need to learn to develop those skills and those boundaries early so that you can survive and have a full life and realize all the things that you want to do. So not just a misconception about OBGYN, but surgical specialties in general. And we need women in surgical specialties. So just in the back of your head, build your tribe along the journey.
Yes.
You're going to have to call on those people.
Right. I would like to just add, compared to all the other great physicians on the panel, I'm the only one, I guess, who's a single mom. I'm a single mom by choice, which I guess, I definitely built that tribe because, you know, again, just like Camilla said, you basically, your reproductive years are still going on, and you're spending most of your, you know, 20s and early 30s in training, and the next thing you know, you're in your late 30s and you realize, my eggs are not as good as they were when I was so much younger. So, and that's why I ended up deciding to become a single mom by choice. And then I had to have like a tribe around me in order to be able to do it. It's not easy at all. But what you need to know is that it is doable, and it can be done if you want something bad enough.
I concur. And to piggyback on what Dr. Phillips and Dr. Charles were saying, it is doable. Tribe is everything. But for me, the biggest lesson, particularly with the third pregnancy in residency, is I used to think, particularly as a woman of color, I don't know about folks in their other backgrounds, but I know for me, coming from a poverty background, that asking people for help was not something that you even just did. Later on, and they could say that they did something for you and you wasn't about that at all, so you just slogged on through. My last pregnancy, I was a severe preeclamptic again, was put on bed rest at 6 weeks, had left ventricular hypertrophy, couldn't breathe to go to the toilet, and ended up having to have one of my colleagues drive from Indiana to Baltimore just to come and help me. Now, I didn't ask her to do that, and I felt some kind of way when she hopped in the car, but it was a lesson in vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. And I think with the feminization of obstetrics and gynecology, this is a good thing, but I think the old school thought process and old school perspective is that vulnerability is weakness, that being a woman, that you got to go above and beyond in order to be able to show that you're just as tough as everybody else. And vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. Learn how to exercise it as a strength and ask for help when you need it. Because in retrospect, my girlfriend and her sister who hopped in the car to come help me when I was in my third pregnancy, heaving because I couldn't go to the bathroom, they came to my house, they did laundry, they cooked, they did all kinds of stuff. And in the end, it was a significant blessing. I would have never asked for that. They pretty much usurped my inability to ask for help and came. But in retrospect, it's changed how I see stuff, particularly as it relates to establishing boundaries for what works for you and what doesn't, and what is acceptable and what's not, and how far are you willing to stretch yourself before you get in trouble, like left ventricular hypertrophy at the house, trying to do everything on your own, not being able to breathe. So
wow, that's awesome.
Of course, that's also when you wait to have babies at 35 and 39. That probably don't help none either.
Exactly.
Our next question is, what are the most rewarding aspects about this specialty?
I'll take that just since I've been off a little bit, give you guys some space. I think the most rewarding aspects are the fact that there's continuity of care. I have seen women through college and marriage and first baby, second baby, and that is just something that I didn't realize how significant would be to my professional growth, my personal growth in my life, that I love that continuity of care. There are times literally when I'm walking down the street and people are like, Dr. Phillips, and then they run to like show me the baby I delivered and who, I don't even want to talk about graduations, but you know, who's growing up and who's moving on. And like, I've left, oh my gosh, whose life I've saved. Like in my head, I forgot about the preeclampsia and left ventricular hypertrophy because it was just another day at the office, right? And they're like, remember you saved my life? And I'm like, oh my God. It's so humbling and so rewarding. And even like my little 6-year-old every now and then thinks I'm cool because I save lives, and that just like makes my day. So it's those kind of things, that continuity and like the significant impact during some of the most important times in your life, that's been life-changing for me.
Awesome.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is, what's most challenging about being an OBGYN?
Anyone? I'll go again. For me, it's a very emotional
Hello? Can we
specialty.
guys, anybody?
Somebody else. For me, it's a very emotional specialty.
I am frozen.
Dr. Charles.
Someone else's audio must be on. I'll just keep going. You can go from one room where people are elated, for example, to have a pregnancy, to the next room where someone's just lost their pregnancy, to another room where someone was, just assaulted, to another room where someone just lost their fertility. Like in a single day, you can have such an emotional experience, and for me, it can get really exhausting sometimes. Our highs are really, really high, and our lows are profoundly low. And unless you're in it, you don't realize how like really schizophrenic your day can be. And for me, that emotionally and being all those emotional spaces with people can be very challenging.
Yeah, I agree with that. You said what's a personality trait that an OBGYN should have or would do well with. I mean, you have to be able to, as women, I feel like we're very sensitive to certain topics. We are emotional. We take things that happen to heart. We take it home with us, and we have totally different days. Some days great and some days horrible, but in the end, I think we all just want to be able to do the right thing for the patient. But you have to have a personality where even though you may have a challenging case or you may have a bad outcome, you have to keep going and know that even though that happened, you shouldn't give up. The next person, in the room is waiting for you, and you're still going to be able to help them. So that can be challenging, but you just have to, just kind of keep it going.
Yeah, thank you. The next question is, what were ways you avoided burnout in the later process of becoming an OBGYN or in general?
Did anybody have burnout issues on the way to becoming an OB? I don't think it was on the way. I think it was after I became an OB that burnout was an issue, for sure.
Yeah, med school, residency. That's easy compared to being an attending.
Go ahead, Dr. Charles, lay down.
I mean, that's like what we tell patients. The pregnancy part's easy, lady. Just wait till that baby pops out.
True.
For myself, one thing that I say is I try to, just invest in my health and especially my mental health. If we're not healthy, we can't help other people. We can't be there for our patients, for our family. I always tell myself I need to know my limits and respect them. It's okay to say no. You want to be everything for everyone, and that's not possible. You have to, say yes to some things. If I can't do it now, maybe in the future, and just keep it moving. Because if you bog yourself down with too many responsibilities and too many things, and it just can get to be a little bit too crazy. And then, like I mentioned before, just find your tribe, find the people that can help you, and the resources that are out there to make it a little bit easier for yourself.
And that no is a complete sentence. It doesn't require any other explanation other than no, sorry, can't. Self-care is everything. Along the same lines I learned. I used to think that vulnerability was weakness, and I used to think that chicks that got massages or pedicures and other things, that was a waste of time, and I don't have no time for that froofy crap. The bottom line is, as Dr. Montes mentioned, You cannot give from an empty well, no matter how hard you try. And if you don't do something, if our phones require time enough to be able to be plugged into the wall to charge, why do you think your body, your mind, and your spirit don't need those same things? You have got to do something. If it's meditation, if it's flotation, if it's hiking, exercise, prayer, whatever, something in order to be able to bring you back. There's this old school, and I'm going to date myself. Everybody has seen a Trolls doll, but from a time frame a little bit earlier than that, there was this little figure that went on the end of a pencil that you could pull the little Trolls doll's hair up like this, and when you rotated the pencil, the hair did this. If you don't have some way of coping, your hair is going to look all kinds of crazy and be spread all over the top of your head like a troll doll. So whatever works for you. Meditation, prayer, definitively exercise. The antioxidant help that comes with that, exercise for sure, but some routine in order to be able to, you live a life. If you're going to do this thing, this life, if you allow it to, is like perpetually burning the candle at both ends. And when you burn a candle at both ends, at some point in time, there's going to be no candle left.
Sure. Boundaries. Boundaries.
Thank you. Our next question is, what were important factors that helped you find the best specialty for you?
I think, I mean, when you go into medical school and you go through the subspecialties, and then you have to realize exactly what part of it that you liked. I mean, I think I already knew what I wanted to do, and, you know, going through your subspecialties and actually being there on a daily basis. And, you know, as in medical school, in your third year, you're doing rotations through medicine, surgery, pediatrics, etc. So that is one of the first ways, if you didn't know ahead of time where you wanted to actually end up in. As you go through, you'll realize, do I like this? Do I not? I mean, medicine to me had the best hours. But for some reason, every time I went in, my hours started from 7 to 3, and then the call team took over and I went home. But during that 6 weeks, you know, I remember admitting the same 4 people for the same problems. It was there. I was like, I can't deal with that, you know? So it's what you love, what kind of like gives you that little joy inside when you actually go through your rotations. I think that's what helped me to solidify exactly what I really wanted to do. I don't know if you guys have any other, you know, ideas.
I agree. My first delivery was actually a third-year medical student, was actually a C-section, and I, like a punk, cried when that child was born. Like, like, oh my God, are we gonna put you out? And then outside of that, this is the crazy thing, which is gonna sound a little pathological. When they cut her uterus and then ruptured her membranes and the amniotic fluid spilled over into the little collect bag and it was warm, I thought, oh, I mean, ridiculous. Crying over how pearly the ovaries looked, would be on peds trying to creep back to OB. It's what it's what makes your heart sing, the thing that no matter what, you find yourself being pulled back to it over and over again. That's how you choose what's right for you. The thing that makes you feel like you are a light bulb and whatever, when you're in that place and in that space. And for me, it was obstetrics.
Nothing to add. They're right on. Nothing to add.
Did any of you people cry when you deliver babies? Anybody else have a funk moment like me?
Yes, I have.
Yes,
I have.
I haven't in a while, but I have.
Yeah. Every now and then. Yeah, you gotta get stuck with it. But that first one was too much.
Those are
And
special
you know,
times.
just a note about that. Speaking to what Dr. Charles was, I would go on other rotations, and I would plead with myself, like, please love this.
Yes.
Please love this.
Yes.
Because the lifestyle is so much better. Please. Want to like do biopsies all day. I really tried to convince myself to love other things. The hours were better. The money was better. There was more prestige, whatever it was. And I couldn't. I couldn't. So you have to be really truthful with yourself. Because again, as you're hearing us say, you can create the life in medicine that works for you in your specialty, and the specialty that works for you. But if you're forcing yourself to do something, it's all wrong. It's ugly. It gets
agree.
done.
I tried to do family practice or psych, and neither one of them worked out. And what do I do as a generalist? Well, actually, when I was in private practice, I practiced one of them, you know, like OB is a PCP subspecialty. Yeah, we did that kind of thing. And then how many of y'all take care of psych issues with your patients?
Every day.
Hello,
Yeah.
exactly.
Every
So
day.
it's still the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're a PCP, you're a psychiatrist,
Exactly.
you're everything as an OBGYN.
Yeah.
So
You could do a little derm if you wanted to.
there
Like,
you
it
go.
really is
Do all
everything.
kinds of stuff. You can make it right, make it tight. You can do whatever it is you want to do as an OBGYN.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
Awesome, thank you. So this is, I believe, our second last question. So we have one more after this, and then we're gonna kind of switch over to the live Q&A session. So this question is, how has medicine changed from when you started practicing to current times?
For me, I was with a group of older OBGYNs earlier this week, and they were talking about the heyday of medicine. And I even think of like my residency when I started. I think medicine is definitely more family and female friendly because more women are moving into medicine, which is why we need women in every specialty so that our needs can be acknowledged and met, and we can change the vision and the outlook on medicine. But for me, I think an awareness of women's needs has increased significantly. I've seen the amount of harassment go down. I distinctly remember like the older male physicians being very touchy-feely, handsy, and it was just straight up harassment, and we didn't call it that. That has decreased significantly because women are in this field, and now you have support from your female colleagues to shut it down. So in my recent experience, I've noticed that the influx of women has made medicine more lifestyle friendly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Great, thank you. So now we're going to move on to our last question, which is, what advice would you offer to an aspiring OBGYN?
Don't give up. The road is not necessarily going to be easy. There will be roadblocks that you will, have to go through. And I know a lot of people, and me specifically, for example, when I took my MCAT, I had to take my MCAT twice. The MCAT is the test that you take, between college and medical school in order to, before you apply to medical school. And oh my gosh, my first score they were horrible. When I got my score, I cried like a baby, thinking that I would never make it into medicine. Or go to medical school at all. So that was like one of the first roadblocks. And so many other physicians or people that you talk to will have those types of experiences, or they will have a very bad day. If you know that's the type of career that you want, don't give up. Just continue and chugging along and, do exactly what you need to do. Put one step in front of the other in order to get to where you need to be. And also, get a mentor. I didn't have anybody to talk to me about exactly what steps to take, where to apply to medical school, when to take this test, or who to talk to. So if you are interested in becoming an OBGYN, get a mentor. They will basically be able to kind of help you answer your questions and let you know about what you need to do as well, so to make it the road a little bit easier for you.
For me, I would say, like we mentioned earlier, just choose this specialty if it's really what you're passionate about, and don't look back. You need to be happy every day with what you're doing at work. And, if you choose something for the wrong reasons, that's when you're going to be at more risk for, like we mentioned before, burnout and things like that. It's just one of those things where if you love it, you just do it and everything will fall into place. And the other thing I would always tell students is work hard, play hard. You're going to work hard, you're going to get your things done, but don't forget that there is life outside of medicine, and you want to, take advantage of that as well.
I agree. I think that
Yeah.
if without sounding cheesy, I think if God makes the vision, he makes provision. I think that if this is what, trust your intuition. If this is what you
Yeah.
feel like you called to do, then you go balls out until you get what it is that you were meant to get.
Exactly.
In the grand scheme of things, and always trust your gut. If I wish that in retrospect, even as a practicing OBGYN in the very beginning, I wish I had always listened to, there's some people that believe that even without getting all spooky spiritual, that, okay, so if we're offspring of God because he made us and he breathed the breath of life in us, then there's a piece of him that lives down inside you that, like I think Dr. Phillips said earlier, she was referencing it from the standpoint of the universe, but there's a thought process that all the answers are already on the inside. And if you get quiet enough, you can hear them, which is where we go back to that whole meditation and prayer, whatever, but trust your gut. Make sure you're clear about what it is you want to do, and don't let anything get in your way in order to be able to stop you if that's what it is you want to do. And as even Dr. Montes mentioned a hot minute ago, she sought out an OBGYN who was working with her mom just to be able to get perspective. Know beforehand that this is what you want to do. Don't romanticize what this life is like. Go follow somebody and find out if this is what you want to be bothered with. When I lived in North Carolina, I had a student that was in high school that she would follow me during the office, and then at night when I was on call, I would go pick her up. We go to the hospital. We do call together in order for us to deliver some babies and do some surgery. So if this is what you want to do, know for real that this is what you want to do.
You got to see the
And
good, the bad, and the ugly.
you do. At 3 o'clock in the morning, people show you who they truly are. You get to see who people truly are at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you want to make sure that this is what you want to do. Because if it ain't, boo-boo, Durham's got better hours and it makes a whole lot more money than what it is we do. There's all kinds of other things that got better hours and better money and not so much commitment.
Exactly.
The only thing I would add to that is long term is always volunteer for leadership positions. Always aspire, try and be a part of leadership. When we talk about lifestyle, money, etc., decision making, you have to be at the table. And so always try and be a part of leadership. And if that means you take a step back and get an MBA, or you volunteer for this committee to work your way up to something else, I think showing that you are a leader by actively being involved in leadership is the other thing that I would suggest. So people aren't controlling your life. You're controlling your own.
Yeah, particularly when you talk about how things have changed in medicine. Administrators and controlling lives, my Lord.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cord, Dr. Charles, Dr. Montes, and Dr. Phillips. I really, really appreciate it. So now we will begin our live Q&A session. The audience can type their questions in the chat box, and then you guys can answer those questions. Also, I just want to mention that at the end, so after the Q&A, I will kind of talk about how you can earn shadowing hours. So just wanted to mention that.
Look, you made a surprise. Gap years. Did any of you take a gap year before medical school? Why or why not? Yeah. I did a gap year. I think I did a gap 2 years. I moved to San Francisco and I worked at the Department of Public Health. Undergrad was hard and I just needed some time and perspective. And I think there's nothing wrong with a gap year at all. When I did go to medical school, I was older than some of my counterparts. I would definitely take a gap year. To Dr. Montes' point about, working hard, playing hard, I played really hard during my gap year. So when it was time to sit my behind down and focus on medical school, there was no issue at all. So I took a gap year. It didn't impact me at all. It just made my application stronger. Yeah, 2 years.
I think
I was forced to take a gap year because of my dreadful MCAT scores. I didn't get accepted to medical school the first time. So I had no choice but to take one. And it made me hungrier, to get into medical school and be eventually what I wanted to be. So that's what I worked towards during that year, is taking the MCAT again, and we applied to medical school and then getting in the next year.
Thank you. I think someone previously asked, What unexpected sacrifices have you made in committing yourself to this career?
Time spent with family. I have missed things when my children were small because I didn't understand the importance of work-life balance and boundaries.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. There's a question about what are each of you doing to fight the racial bias that exists in women's health?
Being unapologetically me and being an advocate for my patients and standing up for what's right, whether you like it or not, and practicing ACOG guidelines no matter what.
Yeah. Calling out racism immediately when you see it, having a zero tolerance policy for discrepancies in care and approach to care, advocating for patients, constantly educating patients and giving them the tools to, I mean, I don't have to give them the tools to spot racism. They know when that's coming, but how to navigate the system, who to talk to, how to talk to them, words to say, that kind of thing.
I guess I agree with everything you said. Education, it's funny because of where I am. I'm the only Black provider in my practice. So, I've had patients looking around to make sure that they actually come to me because they're very scared of going to other people because they're afraid of the way that they will be treated because of everything that they hear in the news. So, telling them exactly what kind of care they should expect from their providers. And if they're not happy with something, ask. If they're explaining something to you in medical jargon and you do not understand, make sure that you ask again or, find a new physician who's going to treat you properly and know that, you have the right to get proper medical care and you should expect it. I find that lately, I've had so many patients who come to me and they say, I came to this practice specifically for you because I've been looking for somebody because I'm afraid of the way that I would be treated at any other place, which is very, very sad.
Yeah, I agree with that. Everything that all three of these wonderful ladies said. And also, as a Latina, being able to speak Spanish definitely helps to break barriers between the Hispanic community and medicine or misconceptions they have about people in medicine. So we, I always tell my patients and, who speak Spanish, I say, if you have a friend or a family member who needs a OBGYN and they don't want to come because they think that they're not going to have a Spanish speaker or someone who can understand them, their culture, their language, let them know about me. I'm happy to see them. And so I think just being out there and being able to, be able to connect with a patient in their language definitely helps as well.
Yeah. To Dr. Montes' point and part of this question, I think also, as Dr. Ricks Cord was saying, be yourself. If you speak another language and can communicate with the patient in their language, there is no reason that you should be ashamed of the language that you speak and the culture and proximity that you share with that patient. I encourage everyone, speak your native language when you're with patients at work to help them feel comfortable, to truly understand what their needs are, their concerns are, and normalize the multicultural nature that is medicine. Definitely speak your language. I think if you can, I speak Spanish, but I specifically took a medical Spanish course because I wanted to serve my Latina patients better and know all the different ways we could call a vagina, or all the different ways we could call a period, because it was important to me that, Puerto Ricans are different than Mexicans, are different than Cubans, are different than Spanish people from Spain. And so it's important that we embrace all of that diversity. And I think it's also incumbent upon us as the leaders to walk what we talk. And so use your language, learn other languages if you haven't already, and specifically learn the medical jargon for the language that you speak.
Right. And even if your Spanish isn't like perfect, because my Spanish it's good, but I know I don't know certain words and things and here and that. It doesn't matter. I mean, if you can get through it and they can understand you and you can understand them, I mean, it makes the difference in the world to these patients, and they're so happy and they're so appreciative.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. I can read out the questions to make it easier. Let's see. Who's another question? Yes, someone asked, how do you make your patient feel comfortable during examinations or difficult topics?
For me, I meet my patients where they are. There was a questionnaire that they would fill out before they came for you to kind of pinpoint what they were there for, really. The trick is, I think, medicine is both an art and a science. And a lot of times, particularly in obstetrics and gynecology, people don't always tell you why they've come. They give you this whole other dog and pony show over here, and it's really this elephant in the corner over here. And being able to spend time with your patients in order to be able to get an outline as to who they are initially, and then over time get to know who they are in order to figure out how you can best serve them. For me, it's about talking to them. As an OBGYN who's empathetic and who has compassion, I get people to tell me all kinds of stuff they ain't never told nobody before.
Ooh,
and
juicy.
Yeah, oh my God, all kinds of stuff that you didn't want to know, stuff that you got to report to reporting agencies, all kinds of stuff. And I think when you meet people where they are and you talk to them like human beings, it brings them from here significantly lower. And even from the standpoint of when you're doing vaginal exams, because let's face it, a speculum exam is somebody looking at your soul from your booty hole, really, in the grand scheme of things. And so you have to talk to your patients in order to be able to provide them the space to be comfortable enough with you being in one of their most private spaces.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I feel if you show them who you really are, you're down to earth, you break things down in an easy to understand way, like Dr. Charles mentioned earlier, and you're someone who is relatable and someone that they can feel like you're their friend, you're someone who is just another woman there to help them, and you're kind of just talking to them like at a dinner table or something. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. They have to feel comfortable with you, and you have to just show them that you're there to help them. And if it means that you break down barriers in any way that's possible, that's going to definitely help.
Yeah, thank you so much. Before I move on to the next question, I just want to talk really quickly about shadowing hours, just in case someone needs to leave. So if you would like to earn shadowing hours, please fill out this form. I'm going to put it in the chat, just did that. Once you fill out the form, you will see a message that confirms your shadowing hours. So feel free to take a screenshot of that if you would like. And we do not keep track of your hours. We recommend you create a spreadsheet with the date of the conference, name of the panelists, and a short summary of the conference to keep track of your hours. And then let's see, it's been an hour and 13 minutes. You can probably write down an hour and 30 minutes for the shadowing. And we can continue with the Q&A session since there are a lot of questions. So the next question was, what's one advice you would tell your 18-year-old self?
Trust your gut. Trust your gut, and you are enough.
Enjoy the ride. It goes by really fast. I remember the first day I started medical school and how exciting it was, that I was finally where I wanted to be. And you end up going to classes, and the next thing I know, I'm graduating medical school and starting residency. And it's the same thing happened also with residency. Time goes by really fast. So enjoy it. The good times, the bad times, just enjoy every single day.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is, what is the best way to find a mentor to help you guide in medicine?
I would say just not maybe the first time you meet someone, but try and get to know someone in terms of what it is they're doing, if it's something that interests you, what their personality is, and by personality, are they someone that you can be sort of your authentic self with? Because that's really, I think, to some degree important when you have a mentor. And some mentors you can't be your authentic self with. Let me be quite honest, because you're trying to get information from them to get to the next level. And so there are mentors for different aspects of your life. And if you see someone that is where you want to be, you'll have to, again, trust your gut about what it is you need to do to have that person be a mentor. The other thing is you have to open your mouth. You can't just assume because you're hanging around someone that, or you're on a rotation with someone, that they are mentoring you. You want to really try and form a formal relationship with that person. And it's important that you're proactive, because mentors on average are very busy people. And so you're going to have to be, open your mouth to establish the relationship, be proactive, be on time, and then take the pearls that they give you and do something with it so that they see their time is not being wasted mentoring you.
Thank you. Also, I just put the link to the form in the chat. The next question is, as minority physicians, was ever a point that you were mistreated by others? And if so, how did you handle that mistreatment?
You have to confront it, and call the person out, pretty much. One example is I was planning on doing a C-section with a PA, an older white male PA, and he had been coming to the hospital. He had this great relationship with the other male OBGYNs in the hospital, and then one time he was scrubbing the patient and he was doing it wrong. So, and I said, and I was trying to be really nice. We're in the middle of the OR, there's tons of people around. And I said, this is not the way you would normally scrub when you're about to do a C-section. And he responded to me, well, that's the way the general surgeons do it. And that's how I learned from them. And I'm thinking, I said, okay, but the general surgeons normally will be operating on different parts of the abdomen, and this is normally the way that you would do it. So I ended up, re-scrubbing the patient, and I didn't say anything else about it. And then after the C-section, I took him aside and I talked to him and I said, hey, I didn't really like the way that you kind of like dismissed me, because I'm a physician. I've been doing this for many years, and I understand that you also operate with the general surgeons, and this is the way that they would normally scrub, the abdomen, but this is a C-section. You normally would do it this way. And I didn't, rebuke him in front of anybody. I took him aside and I told him this. And the next thing I know, the president of the hospital, the medical affairs, called me because he complained about me. And he said, well, he was upset because you said something to him, and et cetera. And I kept thinking, seriously? I was a little bit dumbfounded initially about it, because I was thinking, I thought I did everything right. I didn't try to humiliate him in front of other people, even though technically I thought he didn't take my advice as a female physician, because quote unquote, the white male, surgeons, that's how they do it. And that's how I'm going to do it no matter what you say. So, and the next thing I know, and they wanted to meet with everybody from the hospital so that we could talk and mediate, etc. Or you can apologize to them. I said, I am not apologizing.
Ooh.
He was
No.
wrong. He was wrong. And if you need me to go and have like a mediator to talk about it, we will do that, but I will not apologize. And then one thing led to another, and the next thing I know, the meeting was canceled. So basically, you have to call it out. You have to confront the person, do it in a very nice, professional way, and make sure that you are not trampled on. Because I know he would have never done the same thing if it was like a white male physician who had basically told them or discussed that situation with them, it would have never happened. And I know for sure. And when I brought these situations to my family or other physicians, they know for sure that's the reason why this kind of like escalated. So it's very important to make sure that you stand up for yourself.
I'm going to add a caveat though. You are a physician. You are a board certified OBGYN. When they're going to encounter the bulk of it as they're working their way through is in medical school, when they are on rotations, or when they are residents and they have less power than you have when you're on the other side. I do agree that it must be addressed, but whatever channels they got, like sometimes, so old school, the Bible says if you have an ought with your brother, you go and you pull them off to the side. Sometimes that pisses people off even more so. I have tried that, ooh, let me just pull you off to the side so I'm not going to embarrass you kind of thing. And that makes people even more, particularly, again, I have no issues with white people. My husband's a white dude. That's who Jesus sent me. That's fine. He's been around for 24 years. But old white dudes, ooh, sometimes they get their panties in a bunch right nicely sometimes. And so whatever system is in place in order for you to be able to address your concern and cover your ass at the same time, that's what you got to do. Because as Dr. Charles has shown you, this man got pissed off because he told her, you doing stuff like a surgeon, I ain't a surgeon. And the reality is the operating room, that's your theater. You run stuff in the operating room. In the operating room, it's just you and the anesthesiologist. And these days, it's a nurse anesthetist, so you might be the only doctor in the OR, and it's your space and your place, and you command power and authority in that place. And so definitely you checking him was necessary, but you were already in a position of power. For folks who are underneath folks, dependent on other people in order to be able to get what they get, they got to figure out whatever system is in place in order for them to report whatever it is they need to report and still not suffer the retribution that comes with it. Because, you know, like I know, while you training up underneath somebody, I wish you would say something so they can go ahead and say that you don't cooperate or you difficult to deal with. I internalized mine in residency and became a hypertensive. Now that I'm attending, I don't take no slack at all, but whatever channels are in place in order for you to address them is how you address it. But if you don't address it, it will continue. Microaggressions are a real thing. Now, I think now in 2010, because, you know, people are riding left, right, and sideways, people are more cognizant of microaggressions and maybe a little more fearful about expressing them in some way, shape, or form. But whatever channels are in place for you to address it, you address it in that channel in decency and in order, running it up the chain like it's supposed to. And then when you're board certified, you out of residency, you can show people your entire tale, put them out of your OR, do whatever it is you want to do when you're in the position of power.
Document, document, document.
Yes.
For sure. And not only those, you know, those times that you have problems with people, but of course, as an OBGYN, you have to document. If you didn't write it down, it didn't happen. So in your charts, take the time, even though it's a hassle and it sucks, you want to document everything that happened when you were with the patient as well.
Great. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys are really inspiring to me personally.
Thank you.
All right. There's another question that someone asked. How can we prepare for med school interviews? What does an interview look like? Oh, sorry. What an interviewer look for?
I think you should prepare, you should know your application in and out. You don't put anything on there that you are not ready to talk about in depth. I've seen people put like little, oh, let me throw this research that I really like, just looked up some papers for on my application. And when I ask them about it, they're like dumbfounded about what's on your application. You put this there. I didn't put that there. So you really need to know your application inside and out. If you are not a person who in general is a good speaker, if conversation doesn't come easily to you, you need to practice, 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 because it can come off very awkward if, at least for me, if I'm trying to like pull information out of you and it's not an easy flow. I do think that people who seem a little bit more personable and can have easy conversations, they get favored more highly rated because it's like, oh, I'm talking to a friend. I can relate to this person. Or even if I have nothing in common with them, they're easy to talk to. I can see how patients can engage with them. I could see how they would be a good fit to our institution, that kind of thing. So I think if you're someone who has issues with communication, and hopefully you know this about yourself by now, you take the time to practice. That's what, in my opinion, people are looking for. Our interests might not align at all, but can I work with you? Can I get along with you? Can I communicate with you?
And will you be a good fit for the institution that you're applying to?
Yeah. Because at that point, I don't care about your MCAT. If you got an interview, I don't care about your MCAT. I don't care about your grades. Can we get along and can we work together and can I teach you?
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for the questions today. Thank you so much for answering the questions. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and our other social medias to learn about our upcoming conferences and opportunities. We right now have a team application open, so you can join our team by applying for the following positions: website manager, podcast host, podcast editor, outreach director, graphic designer / illustrator, chapter director, and social media manager. So if you're interested in any of those positions, I highly recommend applying for our team application. The deadline is November 30th at 11 p.m. Pacific time. And if you haven't already, make sure to fill out the shadowing form, which is in the chat. And I really hope you guys like this conference, and thank you so much to our amazing doctors for being here today. Really appreciate that, and this conference was very informative, and I learned a lot of new things. So thank you for being here, and have a great day, guys.
For letting us be present.
Thank you so much.
Other questions that still haven't been answered, if you'd like, you can hit me up on social media. I'm at Dr. Anila OBGYN.
Yeah, same.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Wicks-Court and Dr. Montes and Dr. Phillips. And it was great being here with you guys.
Thank you.
Fun.
Yeah, you ladies are amazing. I'm so happy to.
You guys rock.
I'm going to follow you guys on social media.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm already following you guys. Yes.
I didn't know who we were gonna be with, so now that I got to meet y'all, I'll definitely look y'all up.
Yeah.
I know Dr. Phillips, but I didn't know you other two ladies. So thank you so much.
All right.
Okay.
Enjoy dinner time.
Okay. And stay safe. Stay safe.
Yes.
You too. You too, honey. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.